Welcome, guys, back to the I Love Wrestling podcast. I'm your host, as always, Justin Woolwine, and today we are welcomed by Miss Adrienne Diamond. How we doing?
Hey, we're doing great. I'm so excited to be here. Uh, and I've been looking forward to having a conversation and being here on your podcast. I'm so excited.
Thank you. Like I told you off air, Matthias has said great things, which fortunately you guys will actually come. This episode will air the same week as Matthias's, so that just way that you know things panned out. So that's it. That's good news. But I'm really excited for this one as well. I haven't got to have a lot of you guys from California on the program, so it's fun to learn a little bit, especially from a new area. So I'm excited.
Oh yeah, me too. Definitely great to expand and talk to new people. Really cool.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Share the love all throughout the U.S. and all over the place when it comes to wrestling. You got to spread the word.
Oh, absolutely. And you know what's crazy? For as big as the world is, the world of wrestling is just like a lot smaller than you actually think. But it's really cool the amazing people that you get to meet and see and wrestle with. It's so cool to talk to you.
It's great, like you said, it's such a big world, but such a small one at the same time because
Yeah.
you'll see and hear things about people that are miles and miles away, but and then next thing you know, it's like they're closer to you than you may realize. So it's really
Yeah.
fun to watch how that unfolds, and
Yeah.
fun like I've been doing this about a year, and it's just crazy, like going to different states and cities and meeting new people, and then you'll next thing you know, you see them in your own neck of the woods, or you see them on TV or wherever. It's just
Yeah.
crazy how the world of wrestling works, I guess.
Yeah, it's so incredible. So incredible. I think it's like one of my favorite parts about wrestling. And meet all kinds of new people and go new places and it's so great. It's very connected.
Absolutely. And before we dive into all things wrestling, especially when it comes to you, would you like to shout out your social medias and where the fans can uh, catch the latest news?
Yeah. So my Instagram is Adri Diamond. It's like
Okay,
Adri underscore Diamond. And then I think there's another underscore. And then my TikTok is Adrian.diamond. So you can
okay,
find me there. I started a YouTube, putting videos together. The YouTube part's new for me, but TikTok and Instagram is where you can mainly find me.
perfect. I can say the YouTube process is a grind. I've
Oh
been
yeah.
I've been doing YouTube now probably going on 3, almost 4 years. I've done the podcast just over a year, and just learning the ins and outs of it has been while it's been a fun ride, it's been a very complicated ride, but
Yeah.
it's worth it in the end. It's definitely worth it in the end.
Oh yeah. It seems cool to be able to like have like longer videos to interact with people more. But I spent 2 days working on a video and somehow I accidentally deleted it. So I'm back to square one, putting all the clips together and everything. Terrible.
That's
Uh,
the grind. I've done that so many times.
yeah.
Or I think this has only happened to me once where I recorded like a full interview, like in full hour long, and then something happened to the footage, and I've had to redo it. Fortunately, it's only happened once, but that's such an awkward conversation when it's like, I know I'm supposed to be super professional here, but I messed up.
Yeah. It's like
So
sometimes it's like the technology too, like it
yes,
glitches and it does its own weird thing. Technology is was so weird to me.
it's a blessing and a curse at the same time.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
So just to really dive deep in here, dive right in the trenches. As To be a part of the wrestling world, you got to be a fan of it to start. Like most people don't just jump into this, and you got to love it.
Yeah.
So when did you find professional wrestling, and maybe how did you or what made you fall in love with it?
Okay, so my cousins were huge, like, WWE fans, and they would talk about it all the time. We would kinda play games revolving around WWE. I didn't really know what it was at the time. I was, like, 6 like, I was really young, and then, finally, when I was, like, 7 years old, we were, like, beating the crap out of each other in my cousin's, trampoline, pretending we're WWE superstars, and then it was a Friday, so then my cousins were like, "Oh my gosh, Friday Night SmackDown's tonight." So we all go into my aunt's house and, they put on Friday Night SmackDown, and I'm sitting there and I'm watching it, and I'm like, "Whoa, this is actually so cool." And then when the women came out, because they only had their 1 match a night, um, that's when I was like, "Oh shit, like, this is what I wanna do." Like, I wanna do that with my life, and that's, like, immediately I fell in love with wrestling.
Who were some of your favorites growing up?
Trish Stratus was always my favorite. She was always
Okay.
my number 1 girl, loved her so much. My sister was always on, like, she was always rooting for Lita, so we would always, like, argue about that. Trish
Okay.
all the way. Jeff Hardy, John Cena, um, Velvet Sky, I really liked her as a wrestler. Michelle McCool is one of my favorites. The Big Show, Batista, those are some of my favorite wrestlers growing up. There's
I
more too, but
I know I remember growing up, like, as far as, like, women's wrestling went, Mickey James always stood out. My grandfather loved Mickey James. Like,
oh
anytime
my
she was out,
gosh,
he
so
would
great.
pop, and, like and she was, like obviously, Trish and Lita, like, changed how maybe we looked at women's wrestling, especially in that era. I think
Yeah.
Mickey did a really good job at doing that too. Just
She was one of the trailblazers for that, I
yes.
think. Like, I would say the women that really, like, paved the way is had to be, like Trish Stratus, Lita, Mickey James, I think Michelle McCool, Beth Phoenix, like Natalia, they all kinda, like, pushed that. They're the ones that kinda started pushing for it, like, "We're girls, we're women, like, we're strong, we're tough, we're beautiful, and we could do this." Like, because back then they were more of like, um, they were just used as eye candy, I guess, and they're like, "That's not all we're good for. Like, we could kick ass," and they did. They started paving that way, and it wasn't until after when you had like Paige and Becky Lynch and all them, that's when it started like pushing even more, which I think is like super amazing to see.
So, like, as a consumer and as a fan, when do you really think that women's wrestling like started to get the flowers that it deserved?
I think, um, honestly think between like it's like the 2012 till now, like, this is,
Okay.
like, where that was really the time period where women's wrestling started, really people really start paying attention. I think now there's so many, like, flowers being given to women, like women's wrestling, which, now it's like people look forward to the women's wrestling. People actually wanna see more of it, and it's just so much more like, it's so exciting. Don't get me wrong, the men's wrestling is great, and it's always been exciting and all that, but women, for some reason, it's just a whole different, like, ball game. It's just so different and so unique, and it's so amazing, and it's so beautiful to see. So I think people are really starting to, like, appreciate it now.
Definitely. I know. I like.
Yeah.
I remember as like a kid growing up, like you said earlier, there might be only one, maybe two segments of a Raw or SmackDown that involved the women at all. And then now you look at it, like my brother and my dad, we do live streams for Monday Night Raw every week. And
Yeah.
like there's some weeks 60-70% of Raw is women's wrestling. And like
Mhm.
I can tell you most weeks the women main event the show. And like back in I like when we were kids that necessarily wasn't the case. So it's really cool to see the evolution and how the tides turned
Oh,
and
yeah.
to have them in the conversation. Like you look at WrestleMania, this last WrestleMania that we had, the match of the night or probably match of the weekend was the triple threat with the women in it. And
Yeah,
like
absolutely.
before that was unheard of
Mhm.
and not their fault, but like it was just it wasn't a thing really. And now to have that conversation like, hey, yeah, match of the year or match of WrestleMania was Io, Rhea, and Bianca. It's not crazy to think of, but it's just nice to have
Yeah.
the variety.
It really, like, shows how wrestling's evolved over time, I think, and I think it's wonderful for, like, the little girls that are watching, because when I
Yes.
was younger, I would have loved to see, like, women main eventing and, more women's matches and all that, but I would wait all night so patiently for that one women's match where now you get more. It's so incredible. If I had that when I was younger, I would've oh my gosh, I would have been even more in love with I mean, I love wrestling so much, I'm so in love with it, but it would have just, like, dug me in a deeper hole where I'm like, "Yes, like, this is cool, like, I can actually do this too," and you know, like, it would have been a lot more to see women's being appreciated like that, being a young girl, you know.
Well, and I think now you hear about a lot more like young women watching wrestling and then aspiring to be wrestlers. Where, I mean, before they'd watch the product and maybe how the women were presented could deter a young woman from wanting to pursue that. But now you watch it and they're shown just as, if not stronger than the men are. So
Oh yeah.
I think the portrayal of it definitely leads to the possibility of more talent wanting to get out there and start training and be a part of it, which has been fun to watch as well.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, even because I know when I started wrestling, like I started out as an amateur wrestler, and even back then, it was the same thing. Like like girls wrestling was taboo. Women's pro wrestling is was like not really a thing. But then now, as like the years now as like later on in the years, amateur wrestling for girls has blossomed, it's bloomed, it's at its like highest peak that it's ever been. Like there's so many girls like we could do this, like like getting involved doing it. It's so incredible to see that. And then at the same time you see in like WWE, AEW and all these like other promotions that women's wrestling are also getting that same thing. Just girls are like actually coming out and be like, yeah, like this isn't just for boys, this is for us too. Like we can do this. We can look cool and do this too. So it's just
Exactly.
really cool to see how it goes hand in hand, amateur wrestling and pro wrestling.
Well, I mean, speaking of amateur wrestling, I amateur wrestled a little bit in high school before I got injured. I saw that you've
Yeah.
done some amateur wrestling. Did you pursue the amateur style of wrestling because you was a fan of pro wrestling, or was it
Yeah.
something that you just decided to do for the fun of it?
No, I thought that was like the way you do it. So that was
Okay.
kind of like my little map to get to pro wrestling. I started off as an amateur wrestler in order to get to pro wrestling. And there was a break between my amateur wrestling days and my pro wrestling days, but I feel like my amateur wrestling days were definitely a blessing. I've learned so much and I've done so much, and I kind of learned um there's just a lot that I learned about like working with people, working around people, how to, like being humble, and it kept my head straight for for the meantime. I was growing up, you're not really sure of yourself. You get into trouble. You start doing things that you probably shouldn't be doing. But that was the one thing where I'm like, you know what? This is all I got. So if I fuck up, then I won't be able to do this. So I was able to, that was kind of like the stable in my life, like the thing that was always consistent.
Yeah.
So I really owe a lot to amateur wrestling. And then like later on, I think it's helped with pro wrestling too.
So, I mean, to just out of curiosity, like, what did you think was the hardest thing to learn amateur wrestling, and then maybe what was something that you caught on to pretty easily amateur wrestling?
Um, Amateur wrestling, I think I'd say the hardest thing was like finding like my headspace, because when you're like when you go into competition, your head has to like, at least for me, my head has to be in a certain like place where it's like 100% laser focused, like I'm in it. So it took me a little bit to kind of find that where when that whistle blows, I'm ready to go. I
Mhm.
just had to find it like I just had to like mentally find where to be in order to get to that. And it worked. I did pretty good at, but that was probably like the toughest challenge. And then I think the easiest thing was just to not like not give up. I was very persistent. I'm very hard-headed. So I was, even though, I would hear things like, "Oh, girls wrestling sucks. Oh, you can't do that. Oh, you can't do this. You can't do that." But for me back then, I'm like, well, screw you. Like, what do you mean I can't do that? I can do that. Like, here, I'll show you I can do that. So it was easy for me to take things as a challenge and prove to everybody that I can do this. not only I can do this, but I can see if other girls can do it too, which I try to. I try to recruit other girls all the time. Like, "Hey, you ever thought about joining wrestling?" I was the only girl, so it would've been cool.
I think, like, I guess from my experience, where I started wrestling my freshman year, and out of like everybody had a pair like of their at their weight class except for me. I was the smallest guy that was there, so we had two girls that were on the team that were in different weight classes, and they just decided to put me with them. So like I right off the bat had like learned um to respect the women getting into
Yeah,
that, and to the extra level of, you know, like the extra level of difficulty it is for, you know, a young woman to get into amateur wrestling, because like you said, like a lot of, like it's almost taboo for a woman to get into amateur wrestling, especially
yeah,
like in school. Like there's already a lot of, I feel like, negativity that's put into like in a school setting, being a wrestler in school just
yeah,
because of the way the sport is, and you know how kids can be. So like
yeah,
putting a girl into that setting was always just like, and you all the older kids just they want to pick on and tease, and so like me being paired with them, I had to learn that same thing, and like a lot of times I catch flack too for being the guy that had to train with them. So like I get it. I understand
yeah,
the difficulty there. Maybe not to the same extent, but at least face value. I understood
yeah,
what was going on there, and trying to not only help them, but trying to learn my way too at the same time, which was
mhm,
really interesting because like they're dealing with their set of things. The coaches were weird back then. I don't know what it was, but it was a weird situation,
yeah,
but it was something that we grew together, and it was fun, and it made it a lot. I definitely had like a uh different journey amateur wrestling than most of the other kids did, because I got
yeah,
to go through that, which I think made it more enjoyable, to be
mm,
honest.
yeah, and honestly, like, the girls wrestling, like, how to say it, like, even just, like, the tournaments, like, going in there, it was just such a warm and welcoming environment. I'd go anywhere and I'd be able to warm up with any of the girls if I just, talk to them, asked, and, you talk to anyone and they'll tell you, like, there's some girls who were in it, like, way longer than I was, and they'll give me, like, tips and pointers, and they'll, like, tell me all their stories. So it's really cool to see that and be able to be a part of it. I mean, I had to work my ass off to get there, because since I was the only girl and the coaches didn't really wanna, like, deal with it, or, obviously they weren't for girls wrestling. I mean, some of the coaches were, but they just were more focused on the boys.
Yeah.
But I definitely had to find my own coaching, my own, tournaments and everything, so just having I would say it's a blessing to be a part of that was incredible, and then it's just great. Like, I feel happier knowing that no other girl has to go. I mean, as far as it looks like right now, maybe I'm wrong, maybe there's some schools that have a girl that has to fight to wrestle, but as far as it looks like now, there's a lot more teams with more girls, so it's a lot more accepted, and it's not really like that struggle where it's like, "Well, I work just as hard as the guys, maybe even harder, and I'm still not given these opportunities that they are."
Yeah.
Like, I remember being in the wrestling room, like, first one there, last one to leave, especially, like, towards my last 2 years of high school, I was first one there, last one there, and still was like, I gotta do all of this shit myself." I was my own stat girl and all that, but I really think my dad, he was a very, like, huge support in that. He, like, got super into the wrestling thing with me too, so it was really cool to have that at least.
That's badass. So like going out of high school, did you continue to pursue amateur wrestling, or when did you decide like, hey, maybe let's try to take it to, you know, the, I don't want to say next level, but like to, like when did you want to try to maybe go towards pro wrestling?
So out of high school, I wanted to. continue amateur wrestling a little bit longer because I thought there was a lot more things that I wanted to do, wanted to try to achieve before I jumped into pro wrestling. But then I ended up getting injured, and then I was like, "Oh shit." So I walked away from wrestling for a little bit. And then back in 2023, I was like "Huh, remember when I wanted to be a wrestler?" I was like, "Man," because I had this itch where I would just really wanted to wrestle again, and I was like, "Okay, well, amateur wrestling's done for me, but, pro wrestling, I'm not old." 'Cause at the time I was 25, so I was like, "I'm not old, and I'm not gonna get any younger." So I was like, "How much does gear cost? How much does this cost?" And then so I kind of went through the tunnel, and I remember finding SoCal Pro around the time when I got injured before I walked away from wrestling, but then I was like, "No, I can't do that yet because I still wanted to do amateur wrestling." So then I tried to remember what the school was called, and then finally I dug it back up, and I was like, "Oh, shoot, SoCal Pro." So immediately I called up the boss man and emailed him and called him and called him and called him until he finally answered, and he's like, "Oh, yeah, we have our training coming up, end of the month. Yeah, you're good. You could come." I was like, "Okay, shoot." So that's how that started, and it's been such an incredible journey since.
So, like, what did coming into training at first look like for you, and how did the journey training wise progress until you were ready to get into the ring?
So when I first walked into that tryout day, I was scared. I'm not gonna lie, I was scared because it's been a like I said, I walked away from wrestling for a little bit, actually it was a handful of years. I think it was like 6 years. So I walked away from wrestling for a while, and I kinda just got out of, like, this very depressive stage of my life. I was at probably one of the lowest points of my life, and, um, I also knew well, in my head, I knew how, I was treated back in amateur wrestling, and so I was like, I was like, "I don't wanna deal with that, but if I have to just so that way I can wrestle again, then so be it," you know? I'll push through and I'll get through because that's what I do. I'm very resilient in that. So, when I walked in, it was so much different. It was a very welcoming environment. Everybody was so nice. Everybody, shook your hand and said hi, and I wasn't used to that. I was like, "Wait, what?" And then after the tryout, I was like, "I think I'm gonna come back." "Did I just did I just start something that I have to finish?" Yeah, so then I started coming back and training regularly, and I'm not gonna lie, there was a lot of things where I'm like, "Oh, shoot, I don't know if I can do that anymore." But then I was like, "Yeah, fuck it, let's do it." Little bit scared. Some things are a little bit scary, but once you get through it, then it's like, "Oh, okay, that wasn't bad." But overall, it's been so fun. Been able to, work shows and help out and all that, so it's been a very incredible journey. I think so.
How do you think your amateur background helped you during your training and even now into your actual career?
So in my amateur days, I think a lot of the agility stuff that we would do, or well, not like agility, but when we do stuff like walking on our hands or like handstands and like flips and stuff. Um, there were some things that I had to reteach myself how to do, but
Okay.
a lot of the stuff it's like I never forgot how to do. So that part helped. And then when it comes to like chain wrestling, I have like ideas that I use from my amateur background. But I think the only thing that kind of messes with me is like the pacing. Amateur wrestling, you're expected to go like quick, fast. It's all boom, boom, boom. But pro wrestling, it's like slow down, like chill, like take your time. So I think those are the two things that like correspond, but also like separate from each other.
Yeah. So I was reading that you before you made your debut, you refereed. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay. What did it look like for you getting in the ring as a referee? And do you think that was an important step for you to understand how the inner workings of a match work?
So, getting in the ring as a referee, it was scary, but it was well, 'cause I just wasn't familiar with being like, at practice, it was fine, but then, like, in front of a crowd, it was like, "Oh, okay, so now I actually have to figure it out, be louder," which is something that like, I could be loud, but my voice can only go so loud. So, I'm still learning on making my voice even louder because 'cause I've reached its limits, but I need to push it more. But that was another thing that I really had to work on was just be loud, be confident, be in there, and interact, see how it goes with the crowd and, the wrestlers and all that. Um, but it did help me, because it taught me where I needed to be and where I should be and where I shouldn't be and where the wrestlers should be and shouldn't be, and then the things to look out for. And then also, kinda like prioritizing their safety, like watching their backs, like making sure that they're good, that nothing's going a little funky, or if anything is funky, then it's like, "Okay, like, let's break that up really quick." But I think it all just it helped a lot, just awareness and where to be.
So, what brought forth the transition from referee to active wrestler?
Um, Wrestling was always the goal,
Okay.
but the referee thing came first because my first set of gear I didn't have yet, but I did have a referee shirt. So, I told my boss man, I was like, "Oh, I have a referee shirt if you ever need a referee." And then that's when he kinda gave me my first booking. He's like, "What you doing Saturday?" And I was like, "Nothing." He's like, "Okay, you're booked." And I was like, "Oh, okay." So then that was my first booking, but my first set of gear didn't come until, um, I would say, I think this happened I would say, 3 months la like, 2 or 3 months later, then I got my actual first set of wrestling gear. 'Cause I was still in the process of designing it and getting it made and all that, but that's really why the referee thing came first.
Okay. So you've brought up SoCal Pro a couple times. Um, how important would you say the company's been so far for your wrestling journey?
Very important, so important. It's literally where I started off at pro wrestling, and, I still train there, and I think if it the boss man, Jeff, he gave me my first opportunities, and I think there's a lot of people there who saw a lot of good in me and believed in me, and still do believe in me. So I think I owe a lot to SoCal Pro and the people there, and they're so great. They are such amazing people, and I can never talk about this enough. They are so amazing at SoCal Pro, from the trainers to the people I train with, they're just so amazing. Even the boss man, he's absolutely incredible. I think he's one of the best people that I've ever met too, He's a very fair person, and they're all very nice there. So, I absolutely love SoCal Pro.
I love it. So, like, something that I always find really interesting is, I mean, obviously, as like fans watching you guys, we all have a favorite match or a moment or things that you guys have done. But what's your favorite match moment that maybe you're most proud of so far in your career?
Um, I think so far, I really do love my match with, Ruby Reyes. That was, my first singles match at a SoCal Pro Vista show.
Okay.
And to be able to have the honor of wrestling someone who is, not only a veteran, but, a legend in the SoCal Pro, or, not SoCal Pro, but, Southern California and, just California. She's wrestled everywhere. she's freaking amazing. She's so amazing. She's so nice. Just to be able to wrestle someone like her was honestly that was a blessing. It was great. She's absolutely incredible to work with, and if I have the chance, I would love to have another match with her too.
I mean, speaking of matches that could come or could come about, do you have any dream match scenarios?
Ugh. I would love to wrestle Mickey James. Bringing back Mickey James, I would love to have a match
Yeah.
with her. Like, I think that's always been, like, one of my biggest dreams is wrestling a match with Mickey James. Like, even from a very young age, I was like, "One day I'm gonna wrestle her. One day I'm gonna wrestle Mickey James." So, that is definitely on my list of things that I wanna accomplish.
Okay. And do you have like we've talked about your work in SoCal? Where are some other places, whether I mean it's locally or even further out, that you'd like to work in the future?
Um, so, other promotions, I would like to work, Dream Slam Wrestling, and also I would love if I ever have the opportunity, to work with Santino Bros, I would love to work with them.
Okay.
Um, and then also, gosh, there's so many cool promotions. GCW, maybe one day.
Okay.
Um, maybe thinking bigger, the Crush Lucha Libre. But I know my goal eventually is I would love to work on WoW Women of Wrestling. That's my
Okay.
ultimate goal.
I just I told you off air, but I had Johnny Robbie on, who
Yeah.
did a little bit of work in women of wrestling. I've had a couple other girls from there, like I've had Haley J on, who talked about
Mm,
women's wrestling. I like the aesthetic of the program. Like it's cool. Where I
yeah.
mean, for one, it's all women, which it's rare you get a promotion that only showcases women. That's
Yeah.
cool. And then I like how they kind of make it their own world. Like they bring everybody in, they give them their own character, and like all the storylines are just there, which is interesting, especially when you look at it from a more regional or independent level.
Yeah.
I think that's my favorite part.
Oh, yeah. I think it's incredible. Like, they really celebrate women and they give women this platform and they create all these like really cool storylines, which I'm like, oh shoot, that's like actually really cool. And just like the the heart that it has, like I love it. I love it so much. It just seems so incredible. And the production is amazing. And it just would, going from wrestling guys like from really lit like from when I was younger all the way until now being surrounded by nothing but boys and men, like I would love to have an opportunity to work being surrounded by women, have that change of, environment. Not saying it's bad that, like, wrestling men or anything, but I would just love to, like, just experience that, you know?
Definitely, definitely. And I think, I mean, WoW is predominantly in California, I believe, if I'm correct. So, I mean, it's definitely possible and probably a lot closer than you'd even think.
Yeah, hoping one
So,
day.
as we, excuse me, tongue tied, as we're looking at the end of the year, how would you describe your 2025 as a whole?
I would say it was definitely like, a stepping stone. Like, it was definitely a year that helped me push forward
Mm,
and into the next step of pro wrestling. So I was able to work with like a little bit with like other promotions outside of SoCal Pro and because I mainly worked for SoCal Pro and One Ring Circus. So I worked a couple promotions outside of that. So it's like I was starting to like expand out of my comfort zone. So I think the next year is definitely going to be another step forward. But I think this was the best first start, somewhere to start from.
what's it been like for you trying to branch out and work for other promotions that you haven't like been around before?
Um, it's crazy because some of them reached out to me, And I was like, "Oh, okay." And, it's, like, kinda, like, nervous, like, "Oh, like, these are, like, other companies, like, I need to, like, work even harder and, like, do better and, like, look better and this and that." So but then you go out there and then it's like, "Oh, well, that's actually pretty cool." And then you meet a lot of people, yeah, like, I get like, I have so much worries, like, about everything that could go wrong and, like, what I need to do to make sure it doesn't go wrong. And then when you get through it, it's like, "Oh, I was worrying for nothing." But when you go out there, they're really nice people, really great promoters, and it was just overall a really great experience being able to go out there, wrestle people that maybe you wouldn't have if you didn't have that opportunity, or maybe, like, later on, the opportunity might arise, who knows, but, it's been really cool and, little like I said, I get really nervous, and sometimes I get anxiety, but I don't like to let that, like, control me or, like, stop me, but everything turns out alright, so, I don't know, it's really cool, though.
So like we've talked about 2025. What are your biggest goals for yourself come 2026?
I want to have I want to be able to branch out even more, and I want to have like, I wanna help out at more promotions, just whatever they need. I'll reach out, help out, see what I could do, and hopefully I can make more connections with more people, wrestle more people, possibly get bookings every weekend. That would honestly be like, my ultimate goal, just getting booked every weekend. Um, because it's the one thing that I look forward to, wrestling. It's all I think about, it's all I wanna do, it's all like, it consumes my life. It really does, but that's definitely the goal. Have a booking every single weekend and wrestle as many, uh, people as possible. I would love to, like, focus on wrestling women, but I know that's not always possible, but I'll wrestle whoever. I'm ready. I'm down. I'm ready to wrestle anyone, anytime, anywhere.
I like Adrian, I just want to say thank you for one for joining us today. I always do this, but I'll leave the door open. If you ever want to come on for a part two, give us an update on how you're doing. I'd love to have you.
Yeah, thank you so much. I'd love to have another conversation. This has been
Definitely.
fun.
Before you go, you want to shout out your social medias one more time, just in case for some reason they wasn't paying attention at the beginning.
Yeah, so, my Instagram is Adri Diamond and Adri underscore Diamond underscore, and then my TikTok is Adrian.diamond, and then my YouTube is Adrian Diamond as well. But
Perfect.
yeah, thank you so much for having me here. I appreciate it a lot.
Of course, anything to help professional wrestling is the goal, and help you guys share your stories. And for me personally, it's just kind of like how much can I learn about
Yeah.
everybody and anybody. So thank you for sharing, join, and sharing your story, letting us know a little bit more about you, and hopefully we got some people excited to see what you got coming for us in 2026.
Yeah, thank you so much, and it was an honor being here, and it was great meeting you, well, virtually meeting you, having this conversation, but
Thank
it
you.
definitely means a lot. Thank you so much.
Of course. I'll leave this at see you next time then.
Alright, see you next time. Bye.